Well, it's nice to be here to talk to everyone today. We had a little bit of an opportunity this morning to drive around in the downtown area and get a sense, I think, of what's happening here, and certainly saw a lot of wonderful small, especially entrepreneurial efforts that you see that are popping up throughout the downtown. We were also really struck with what great building stock and the fact that you still have a pretty intact urban street wall in your downtown. So those are all things that you can really build off of and what you want to do here in Jackson. So I'm going to start by just telling you some of the basic things that we've been working on. And a couple of things to sort of echo Dave. So I've been working here for actually 26 years now, but we have a good 10 years more, probably before we will be a really economically sustainable, complete neighborhood. And by the time that we feel the really big core of the neighborhood has all the historic buildings renovated and most of all the major sites that are left really built on. So, even though we're 25 years into it, there's a good 10 more years of hard work, even though things are accelerating quickly here, because I think it is important to see these initiatives in disinvested communities take very long periods of time, but they do accelerate quickly over that period of time. So, that gives everyone the hope, I think, to stick with the hard work that it takes. So one of the things we ended up doing here after we merged with the organization in the north was just, take a look at the infrastructure needs of the neighborhood. We've long been doing streetscapes and some of your basic park redevelopment, things like that in the neighborhood. But we realized that we would have to take a much stronger role in the infrastructure, working with our DPW department at the city and the state transportation department to do, for instance, turn all of our streets back to two-way. So one of the things a lot of us have struggled with, I think, in a lot of these older cities is that everything got changed to one way when, this was more about getting people in and out of these business centers. And it really is not that friendly to trying to rebuild a residential mixed-use neighborhood. So we really worked hard to get all these property owner sign-offs. We had to get 90% of everyone that were along all these major roadways that we were turning back. Then we incorporated new street lighting and a lot of other amenities with those conversions, and we're continuing to do that in pretty much every street that's remaining in the district. We did a number of them. Another project that we've been working on is this Greenway, which is sort of a larger kind of a trail system that connects to the Detroit River Walk and also to the DeQuinter Cut, which are some really popular rails and walkway systems that have been put in place in Detroit. So we wanted to make sure we could make it seamless to move from the university campus at Wayne State all the way down to the Riverwalk for bicyclists and pedestrians. So we're investing about $15–20 million with the Community Foundation and as our primary partners on this to create a whole series where we've actually taken back some of the street right-of-way, created larger sidewalk areas, put in lots of landscaping and walkable amenities for people to walk their dogs, to ride their bikes, and to do a lot of other events and other related activities. So this has been an important thing. We've also taken on a lot of parks in the neighborhood. We feel that green space and preserving it and improving it is really important to retaining residential base and to attracting new residential base. So when we merged with this other organization, we found out there were two very large parks in their district that were all going into foreclosure. And so we quickly mobilized, worked to pay off the taxes and gain control of these properties, and now we're putting forward new redevelopment plans to create wonderful residential park amenities. Again, these are strategies to try and just stabilize and attract new residents to these communities. I think you can see those conditions in most urban neighborhoods. The other program that we've been doing that we're really excited about is this whole Green Alley program. So we quickly found out every time we were doing real estate projects and they were next to an alley, it was a problem. Because the alleys were all collapsing, the infrastructure was not maintained by the city, and so this became more of an opportunity than a negative. So again, working with the city, working with other funders who are interested in trying to do something more environmentally conscious, we were able to do a pilot one by a green business incubator that opened, and now we're doing a series of 4 more of these that are partially being funded by Shinola, who's a new startup company, and other investors in the neighborhood. So we're going to try and create a whole neighborhood full of these alleyways, and then we'll be able to do events and use them for lots of other public purposes. But this is an example of what we're going to be doing next to a new condo building that was just renovated. The other thing Dave mentioned, safety and security is paramount. And mean, we are very lucky to have the Wayne State University Police that have transformed themselves into the Midtown Detroit Police. There are about 55 deputized officers, and they cover the cost of going over and above in policing for the neighborhood. It's certainly a challenge for them financially, but they do understand the importance of making the surrounding neighborhood safe for their staff and faculty who live there, and we're very fortunate to have them as a key partner. And then we also have a very large security group that we collaborate and coordinate. They meet every couple of months, sort of keys in to the anchor group that Wayne State leads, which are the big institution anchors, security chiefs, that get together every 2 weeks with the Michigan Department of Corrections and a lot of other partners, the Sheriff's Department, and that's where they really drive down crime rates through the CompStat process, that they all review data together, they all share their strategies together. So if your security forces in your institutions are not super coordinated and really using the CompStat program, which is a large, highly regarded methodology for using data and identifying the hotspots in your neighborhoods, they should be working together on this. But the other thing we find is that alone isn't enough. They also have to come to these community meetings every 2 months where you really hear what's going on. So there's the data's one thing, and then sitting with all the apartment managers and the residents and the business owners about what they're seeing that's going on in their buildings or adjacent, that's a whole other level of information that's made available to all those security folks that then can develop strategies and really adapt them to make them very successful, so that it's all really integrated into one crime strategy in the neighborhood. So we do the sort of the bottom up, and they do sort of the institution down, and then we all come together, and then we really make a big difference, that joint effort. So another thing we did with support from Hudson Weber is do a matching security grant program for all of our businesses and their residents. So anybody who is interested in matching a $5,000 grant for us to add security cameras or better lighting, or whatever you want to do that you think is going to make your home or your business more secure. We've done probably 60 or 70 of these now in the neighborhood, and they're really, I think, an important added value, especially to business owners and some of the developers that are doing things in the neighborhood. The other thing we do is we do the clean and safe kind of activities in Detroit, because there is such a lack of dollars available through the city. The intermediary organizations have had to really step up and sort of take on the plantings and the maintenance long-term of all these public spaces in the neighborhood. So we now spend, of our $2.8 million budget a year, we spend about $800,000 a year on clean and safe. And that includes having, the sort of the Roger Penske founded Goodwill Industry program, which takes folks and trains them and gets them into this really wonderful program that does a fantastic service for the whole greater downtown area. So it's also providing jobs for folks who need that kind of employment. But again, nothing would really work if you came into our neighborhood 10 years ago before this program existed, and it was just constant battle with trash. So these things again really make a difference. Beautiful flowers everywhere, entryways, gateways. People start to really perceive your district when you can soften the edges of it with those kinds of investments. Again, for a fairly small investment that Hudson Weber made years ago in this median program we did, it's a huge visual upgrade for the neighborhood. And it lets you know you're also in this zone that is really maintained, coordinated, and really managed. And that's really important in Detroit, because when you get out of these zones, it can become pretty dismal pretty quick. So you need to, for the confidence of folks coming there to school, coming there to invest, or coming there to work, you need to have people feel like there's someone managing your district. And you have to do that every day. One of the other programs that we set up, and I'm sure your DEA probably has one here, is a facade matching grant program. So we work closely again with Hudson Weber and the Community Foundation in the early years provided some funding for this as well. But this is just a beautiful limestone building that was just completely redone on Cass Avenue. We're doing many of these. Dave has been very gracious in his board to continue funding this, because this is where you can get some real quick wins in your downtown. So we go up to $50,000 per storefront for folks if they match it, and we'll do patios, we'll landscaping, we'll do storefronts, whatever is going to have the public benefit of exterior improvements that we think is really going to help the business be more successful, but also signal to everyone, things are really changing here. You drive by, 6 months later you drive by, you see a whole bunch of new stuff. I mean, that's the kind of confidence that you really have to start signaling to your market that things are getting better here. So this is an example of another little funky one. We just put on a concrete building that we have a little Spanish tapas restaurant moving into. They'll have an outdoor cafe, have another tenant moving in side by side. So again, lots of different ways. This is another one we did on one of our streets to just, make a commercial property just way more attractive, again, in a gateway location. And this is one that was a little liquor store in the neighborhood. They now sort of upscaled their product mix. But again, just taking a very simple one and doing some simple upgrades to make a difference in the neighborhood. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about this LIVE program that Dave had referenced, and I think some of you are familiar with through your U3 Ventures work, I'm sure. So when Dave and company all brought in U3 Ventures, one of the key strategies that they recommended based on their Penn experience was, how are we going to capture more folks living in this Midtown geography? And I would say greater Midtown geography for the purposes of this program, because when we did the analysis of the boundary area with U3, we wanted to be able to benefit some of the adjacent areas that we felt were also had product mix that could make this program successful, especially on the for sale side. Midtown is a very heavy-duty rental community. Certainly there have been condominiums and some for sale townhouses built over the years, but fundamentally we're still primarily a rental community, like most medical and university kinds of districts are. But we knew we had a lot of people who were going to want to buy with our residential for sale incentive. So we carved out a district that included some really great historic neighborhoods that were sort of on the periphery. And that proved to be a very essential strategy, I think, to make this program really work for everyone. So right now, I will tell you, between the downtown and the Midtown program, which we operate both of those, we now are at 1,456 participants. So we're about halfway through the program. So we hope by the end we'll have about 3,000. We've spent about half the money, and we're about halfway through the period of the 5-year commitment. Now, I will say the downtown folks, many of those have a commitment like, Sue, I will fund every single employee forever who wants to live here. So they'll just keep rolling money. I mean, we have gone through Gilbert's money, I don't know how many batches, 200,000, like constant. And Blue Cross, the same thing. In our area where it's institutions and it's partly paid for by philanthropy, it's like you have this much a year. We typically run out about September, and then we have to put everybody on hold. We take a waiting list, and then we get to people in January. So that's sort of where we are again this year. We'd love to just have that rolling opportunity here, but we're not able to do it that same activity in Midtown. So of that, we offer a variety of incentives. We offer the matching exterior grants, $5,000 if you match it like our security, and we'll even lump up the two together if it makes sense. So if you're moving in and you already work for one of these institutions, you can get a $5,000 match if you're, again, going to do something visibly improving the exterior of your property. If you're a new renter to the district, you can get a $2,500 first-year rental incentive that's paid directly to your property management company, and you have to get approved by your institution before we will, put that together for you. And then if you renew for another year your lease in the neighborhood, then we will give you another $1,000 the second year. And if you're buying a home within the whole boundary area, we'll give you $20,000. Now, what we've been able to do is marry up our $20,000 with what was Citizens Bank, which is now First Merit Bank. They had some money that they needed to get out in down payment assistance. So they married up their money. So everybody we've been doing for the last couple of years gets $27,500. $7,500 is courtesy of First Merit Bank. So this has driven, a lot of interest, obviously, in both products. So this just gives you an idea of who's buying, who's renting, who's doing exterior improvements in both. Downtown is a far greater rental because it's a younger demographic downtown. We all refer to that as the Quicken factor. And a lot of them go to buildings together, like in mass, kind of like big frat houses in a way. So it is a different dynamic. And Midtown, I would say, is a much more mix of certainly ages. And one of the things that we were really happy about with this program, one of the things I think people were concerned about is this is just another strategy to try and get in young people into the city. Like, what's it going to do for lower income residents? How is this really going to benefit? So we have kept really good stats on racial composition, income composition. Like, everybody is benefiting from this program. And we have benefited tons of folks that are in the service and lower income categories, which we felt was really an important objective of this, that this really benefit all the different income levels at those institutions, because the institutions all have a real workforce housing issue at all levels. And so this really was designed to be flexible. Anyone, as long as you qualify as working at those institutions, can qualify for this. There's product in the neighborhood, everything from affordable units all the way up to higher priced units and everything in between. So because of the diversity of the product that we have, the diversity of the type and the price points, everybody was able to benefit from this, which I think is really a really great win for the neighborhood and for all the investors who are investing in this program. This is one of the interesting things. So if we look at just the age, since I know there's a lot of talk here about, not just the where people are moving from. The other thing we felt in Midtown, we've had 180 of our applicants move from other neighborhoods. So we've even mapped, which I'll show you what other neighborhoods and where they're moving from. As you know, Detroit just finished a Detroit Future City plan for the whole city. And one of the goals, quite frankly, of the plan is not to force move anyone, but to encourage people to move to neighborhoods that have amenities and transit and some other opportunities and job opportunities. So again, this program also helps support that, especially since a lot of people are moving from neighborhoods that may only have a few houses left on a block, or just don't have the commercial amenities that a neighborhood needs. So in household size, we're now up to, again, about a little over 1,100 or 1,200 new people into the district. The resident ages, as you'll see, if you're looking in the Midtown, you have more of a spread, although again, 42% are in that 20 to 29. And if you look in downtown, 56%. So you are really targeting, in large part, but not exclusively, the young talent pool and trying to get that young energy into these districts, which then brings with it a whole bunch of other things that I'll talk about. The buyer age, I thought, was also interesting from a new resident in the Midtown area. The buyers are 58% male, 42% female. The renters are very heavily female. And this is always a statistic that people question. Like, all the 25 years I've been here, we've always been a heavy female rental neighborhood. Now, part of that probably has to do with medical and nurses and other things. A lot of it's off the university as well. And things that I've heard forever, and even more recently, is like, is it safe for women to live here? And you think women will really want to be here? Yes. Lots of women are moving to Midtown. Now, when you get to downtown, again, you have a heavier male concentration, but again, Wiccan factor. So you have a little bit different dynamic going on here. So if you look around the region, and you look at the municipalities that people have been moving from, you see it's pretty evenly spread throughout the whole region. So people moving in from out of Detroit are coming from all these different parts of the region. There's not any area that we're sucking anyone more from than any other. It just, people working at these institutions are really coming from all over. And that's what this shows you. And then where they're landing within the district is also sort of interesting and pretty evenly spread. As you'll see, the northern area is by Henry Ford Hospital. The middle area is kind of by Wayne, and the down area and the lower is closer to the DMC. And I mean, people generally do want to walk to work and live relatively close. We don't get a lot of people in Midtown who really want to go, like, to Jefferson. And I doubt that they get people downtown, they more want to go to Jefferson. So, I mean, we're really seeing some very logical, locational preferences here. And the nice thing about the two programs is that we're able to really help that Jefferson corridor some, up to Lafayette Park, where there's lots of good under-leveraged property up there. And then we're able to help our area up a little north of Henry Ford's area. And we'd like to consider going to Boston Edison, which is another important historic neighborhood that we think has tremendous value for our purchasers. So we're taking a look at that. One of the other things that sort of came into our shop around the same time we did this merge was this other national initiative called the Living Cities Integration Initiative. It's way too complicated for me to talk about foundation, Steve. I mean, it's way too complicated to explain it all. But the end game was we got about $23 million to run for 3 years an initiative, one of 5 neighborhoods in the country that were capitalized to do real estate development, to work with our anchors, to leverage some local buying, to support our LIV program in terms of some of the staff support and some other things. So it was meant to do a wide variety of activities. So I'm just going to talk about a few of those. One is we also included a neighborhood that was just to the north of Midtown called the North End, which is very disinvested. And they wanted to see if they could figure out how to use a stronger intermediary to help benefit that geography. So we ended up doing a couple things. One was doing a very inclusive planning process with all the different organizations, and there were many up there not working together. And then trying to start peeling off some programs that we could help seed fund. So one of the ones that we're going to be launching is about $1 million program up in the North End. It's a home repair and it's a home repair program for existing owners or new owners that are coming in to buy property. And it is 50% grant, 50% very low interest long-term loan, so that those owners really don't have to pay more than $100 a month over a long term to actually get up to $50,000 worth of improvements in their houses. And we think this is really leveraged with Kresge Foundation money and Living Cities money and a variety of other sources to really bring something there. We've targeted 2 small geographies within the neighborhood. Again, they are the most historic, intact portions of that neighborhood to try and make a difference up there. So the way we're using that money, again, is for mixed-use development, commercial kinds of build-out, which you'll see in this slideshow I'm showing you, pre-development, bridge financing, and then this neighborhood-based loan program that we're doing in the neighborhood adjacent to ours. In terms of the local buying effort, this is one of the things that U3 Ventures and the institutions sort of worked on conceptually. And then we worked with U3, got one of our neighborhood revitalization fellows, which is another program that kind of came to Detroit recently, to working with the individual institutions on trying to figure out how to leverage for the community, benefit from a local buying strategy. So I think what was interesting about the way this ended up working out, so over a couple-year period, by the time it really got going, it was about a 2-year effort. We tipped about $20 million in known transfers. And I think what was more important than the number, because the number is not huge given how much people are spending, but it was the impact and the way that the transfers, what they did that had other ripple effects in the neighborhood. So one of the strategies was to take a bakery that had a huge amount of investment that was going under because they weren't doing enough business to justify all the capital investment they put in. One huge order from the Detroit Medical Center or shifting, saved that whole place and lots of jobs. We were able to get Wayne to shift a bunch of printing from suburban suppliers to a big downtown printing house that enabled them to buy a $2 million digital printer that now allows them to compete and add a lot of jobs. The university or the medical center and the DMC got together and decided one of their biggest vendors, Cardinal Health, needed to come to Midtown, and they made a $27 million new facility happen that is now getting under construction. It'll move about 150 jobs from the region, but it'll also create over 30 to 50 new ones, and they've made a commitment to hiring those through a pipeline through Focus Hope. So again, you're getting the job spin-off, and then Henry Ford worked with our organic bakery to expand and open up a healthy bakery in the hospital, which also added jobs and also added revenue to one of our existing. I gave you lots of other examples. We also had a small minority contract construction company who had never done business with Wayne State University that came to one of the live vendor fairs that we put on with Wayne and got introduced to a buyer and then ended up with a really nice contract and now is on a regular list to get, the size contracts like, we're renovating an office, that kind of contract work. But it's stuff the university and these places do every single day out there. So I would encourage people, if you're looking at local buy, don't just look at like, oh, it's all about the number, trying to do this. I would look at pushing on the things that are going to have all these other leveraged investments on jobs for Detroit residents, your case, it could be Jackson residents, that also would leverage new physical footprint development like the Cardinal Health, but also would save or stabilize or strengthen a good quality business that's also in your district. So, look at it pretty broad, and I think that you'll be amazed if you really sit down and strategize on how to make this have a lot of benefits, how successful you can be. One of the other programs that we're just launching now that we're stealing from Saginaw, I believe, is one where they had worked with a hospital administrator who set up a company called Balance Concierge, and they actually have figured out a way in your hospital systems to create this seamless online program whereby if you're an employee or a visitor or anybody coming to their health system, you can go in and get online or visit a concierge station, which is staffed, and you can order up anything from the local neighborhood businesses that you want, and it'll be delivered to you at no upcharge. The upcharge is paid by a third party. So we are piloting this with Henry Ford. They've agreed to sort of take it out as a pilot, and I believe the system, one of the systems they're working with right now, they tipped into this local neighborhood, they were working about $750,000 worth of purchasing just for small businesses in that district. So we really think we could hopefully grow this with our 3 anchors over time, because now people really think more about wanting to shop local, wanting to support local, and I think we can really take advantage of that national movement. So that's another program that we're going to start. Again, business development, one of the things we ran into with the city of Detroit, you may or may not have this issue with Jackson, is just trying to help people get through all the city processes, business licensing, permitting. So our Living Cities initiative actually pays for 2 full-time staff people that are embedded in building and safety. They're trying to change processes on the one hand, and they're doing troubleshooting for all kinds of businesses throughout the city. We found out this is critical to the end game of getting all these entrepreneurs open up in the a couple of other things we did with Living Cities. We did some multi-year grants to the Wayne State Child Care Consortium to help get grants out to child care centers that just needed programs, equipment, whatever. So we gave out a bunch of grants. We also are doing a workforce pilot with Henry Ford. This is another thing that's part of the anchor strategy. So Henry Ford hires like 4,000 to 5,000 people a year. Tons of those are entry level. And they have a hard time always filling it. And it's just a pain for their HR. So we introduced them a couple years ago to the city workforce department. Disaster, okay? They tried, didn't work because there were too much bureaucracy. The city workforce department was then taken out of the city because they were not performing, and it's now its own nonprofit. Henry Ford agreed to go back in, same director, same people, out of the city. Works like a charm. Okay, so now we've got, I think so far we've got about 80 people that have now been vetted by this workforce program. Totally vetted, saves a ton of time for the Henry Ford HR people, and now are working in all these different entry levels. So they're doing 2 things. One's entry level just for like you're a valet car driver or you're working in the cafeteria. The other one is actually a ladder that includes an education piece, so you can move up into nursing and other things. So we're doing both of those things. And we think those can really scale over time, but we got to make sure we make the basic work. So now that they're happy, they're going to add one more job category, then another, then another, then another. Now it's not easy because they still have to vet a lot of Detroit residents to get the people the position filled. Because we still do have the huge difference and drop between the educational attainment, job readiness, and the actual even entry position. So there's still an issue there. But we are getting many people now that are employable in the job. So at least it's a first step. Now, the other thing we're doing is we own this building on the boulevard. Again, when we merged, we took over a big park and a building. And this building was really under leveraged and underutilized. At the time, I was like, just give it to Henry Ford. I don't even want to deal with this building. But now it's actually turned into an asset. You wait long enough, good things happen. So now we have Detroit Future Cities that's going to be moving in here and anchoring. We have a great coffee shop from Southwest Detroit that's going to take a space on the ground floor with them. We have our Living Cities folks, and we have our big national intermediary, NCD Capital, coming in with a big office here. And then we have a couple of creative companies that are moving in from Royal Oak, and now we're almost going to be 100% filled. So, I mean, it's now turning into something that we're trying to create a second hub. We've made our little Midtown collab that I'll talk about a little bit into one hub for the neighborhood, and now we're creating this as a second hub, which is up in the New Center District. So that's really turning into a good thing. The other thing we did with all the anchor institutions is did these district plans. So we funded them up through, again, grants from foundations, Kresge, Community Foundation, State of Michigan, MEDC, lots of people put money in. And we sat down with Henry Ford, and we really did one around the boulevard. We did one with DMC, and we did a big plan for Tech Town, all of them. And now we have very clear, in each one of those, we have taken 3 interventions with money. No more. We might have said plenty of other things need to be done. But again, if you take on too much, trust me on this one, and you do not focus on like what are the 3 biggest leverage things in each of these districts we can do, you'll never get anything done because there's not enough resource, human or money, to do it all. So just get really focused about like, this is the thing that's going to set the base for all the other people to come in. Don't go right to the sexy object, because that never works. So, figure out what you can do as anchors or your community development intermediary can do first and get that right. And then if you create the platform right, then all sorts of other players can come in and invest in your neighborhood. So this is one that we're really excited about. It's our new Tech Town plan, seed funded by the New Economy Initiative that Dave also runs. And they are investing with us, and I think we have some other new investor foundations that will also look at come along, that will help us create a place-based innovation district here. And this is where we are doing things. We're going to have a major public art competition for our viaducts that currently create a real barrier between our districts. We're going to be doing all sorts of public living room spaces that we're creating outdoor, a new big accelerator that's well under construction by Tech Town, a big biomed facility that Wayne's under construction with 460 new folks. So we have a lot of good energy, and we have some private investors looking to get into. So we're really excited. This will be a good 5 years worth of heavy lifting here, I think, on the part of everyone to really start to create a district that right now has great bones and has really high quality investments that have been made and are being made, but is siloed and is not really, does not really have a place built. It's just a series of really high quality projects. So we're really going to try and tackle that. The other thing we're doing in almost all of the neighborhoods in the city is rezoning the whole neighborhood. So we're really far along in this. We're trying to rezone everything so that it's Special District 1 and 2, which means you can have all kinds of mixed-use stuff pretty much everywhere in Midtown. So there's not going to be like you can only do residential here, no, pretty much everywhere. You're going to be able to mix up your uses. We have a pretty mixed-use district to begin with, but this will not cause issues every time someone's trying to do something interesting and the city says no. So again, we've hired the guy who was the head of zoning, you might not even know this, who got laid off. We hired him, he now works for us, and he's redoing all this zoning, and then he'll take it through the city process, actually, although he's now out of the city. There's no one in the city to take it through the process. So you have to see how we roll here? You have to put people in these places or then hire them when they get laid off in order to keep anything going. So, so we're going to move that along. One of the things that we recently did is we put together this sort of little map that shows Midtown over time and some of the major development initiatives. So back in 2003, it was sort of hard to see, we had about 6 significant projects in 2003. These were the types of projects. Expansion of the Symphony, really nice for sale. It was again before the bust, for sale town home development. Get into 2004, had about the same. This is the era of the big new bonded school projects and in Midtown, some medical expansions. Go to 2005, 10 projects, some very significant residential renovations in older apartment buildings. Get to about 2006, this is when we start to see some really nice loft development, again, for sale, at least intentioned, right before the bust. Most of it went rental, and then now it's all got back and all sold. But it was a cycle. Then to 2007, where you're getting more of the more contemporary townhomes. 2010, mixed use, galleries, that sort of thing coming in. 2009, again, vacant historic residential buildings being repurposed. Wayne State made a big investment in their medical facility during that period over the medical school campus. 2010, similar, 2010, this is like Slows to Go, their commissary and their to-go location. And this is our development on Woodward where we built this collab. 2011, again, more historic renovations for housing and mixed use. 2012, a big coffee house we're partnering next to our office. Again, Shinola came in and did this factory for assembling watches, which is up in the northern edge. 2013, got a big lift in 13, okay? Mixed-use developments, bigger scale, Whole Foods open, that kind of thing. And now we've got projects that are planned. Many of them financed now with this capital that I mentioned, this $23 million, most of it real estate capital. Now we have 28 on the plan. So you can see a big uptick in the last so many years. So this is a couple of the projects that I'll show you. This is a building that we got an NSP grant from MISHDA to purchase. We purchased this property. We have a redevelopment plan for it. We have a loan approved for it. And so we're going to be moving forward with that. This one we're also in closing calls for. This one we've been working on forever. This got stuck before the bust, was funded, and then Bank of America was like, we're not doing any of this anymore. So we sat on this project, and we repositioned it as an all-commercial deal, and now we have it funded, again, through a variety of our intermediaries. This is out on Woodward. It's going to be all creative companies, architects. Lawrence Tech will be the major anchor tenant with a big design studio and gallery in this building, and then we'll have one restaurant space. This building, we're also having our groundbreaking, you'll be glad to know, in November. Flagstar Bank is funding a $10 million loan to renovate this building. So this building had a fire, was fully occupied. It's going to be brought back for 75 units of housing with 2 commercial spaces. Again, we're a partner in this. The other 2 I showed you were actually the sole developer. This one we're a limited partner in. This one we are a co-developer. It's a very large vacant building. It's going to be 129 units of housing. A lot of layered financing. We're doing this with a large development company, McCormick Barron, out of St. Louis. We hope to close on this in March. This is about a $30 million renovation. Unfortunately, very expensive building to redo, but it's just like looms over the whole neighborhood, so it's really got to be built. Then we bought a church. We got a large grant from Arts Place, which is a national arts funder, to turn this into a music and theater center, which we're going to be working on next year. And then we bought this building. We have a small hotel. This building came available on the corner. We bought that. Now that the market is actually really good for condos, we might actually do 4 two-story condominiums here. But we are going to undertake that one next year. We did do the landscaping. We don't want to be seen as a slumlord in the neighborhood, so we had to at least do the landscaping. And then we also run this park. So Dave said, programming your neighborhood is really important. Don't forget that. So we took over this park that our organization we merged with had built, and it was sort of under-leveraged, and now we do a lot of programming all summer long. It's become a very nice venue for the neighborhood. We also do a very large event called Noel Night, which is a huge open house the first Saturday night in December. About 50,000 people come to the neighborhood in about 4 hours, which is pretty nuts. But anyway, 65 locations participate. And then we do an event for Kresge called Artix Detroit, which is a huge arts event all through the neighborhood. We did a big video, a light festival called The Electricity. We're going to do it every next year. We'll do it every 2 years. Again, brought about 75,000 people down to the neighborhood. So, don't be afraid to do events that are scale, but we also do events like block parties for small groups of entrepreneurs, that just happen to be located together, and they pull in a bunch of people. So programming really does bring people in. Now I'm going to talk about a little bit of some of the individual developments. This is that biomed facility Wayne is under construction with. Wayne also took the lead on putting together a bike share plan for downtown and Midtown. And so this is moving forward. We're hoping that the downtown partnership will sort of take the lead on the coordination, and that we can put together a robust bike sharing program for downtown, next to the Riverfront Eastern Market, ourselves Forktown. So that whole 7.2 district that has all the really good emerging product in it, and we have a very large contingent of bicyclists in Detroit, and larger every day. So we think this is important. This is a site that Wayne just put out a big RFP. Which is on Cass Avenue, just south of the campus. They're going to be announcing a big development that's going to go in here, housing, commercial, some other uses, be announced in November. This is, some of the DMC is investing that $500 million in new facilities. This is their new heart hospital and Children's Towers plan. This is their new Ronald McDonald House that they're going to be putting out actually on a map. So again, one of the nice things that does happen is, like, when some of the institutions make investments, they have to build on sites where they already had investments. So the DMC tore down an apartment complex with 125 units. Well, right across the street, we're redeveloping that building for 129 units. So we're going to be working with the DMC In the meantime, they're putting all those people that were there in a casino hotel, which makes no sense. So when our building is done, we'll be moving a lot of those people over to our building. And same here, Ronald McDonald House has to go down for a children's tower, so we're going to benefit from a vacant site getting a new building there, out on the street, that will really fill in a vacant lot. Tech Town, I mentioned the new accelerator being built in this building. This is what it's going to look like. Dynamite space. Going to do a lot of great work with small businesses. They have a retail boot camp there. They're going to have like a kitchen in there. We're going to do. It's going to connect to this public living rooms, park space we're creating. There'll be kind of public space for Tech Town. So this is a very exciting project. Here are some of our funding partners. These are some of our biggest funding partners. Again, these aren't our foundations. These are more of our true finance partners. These are people that pretty much are in all the deals pretty regularly, whether they're small business deals or real estate deals. This is our pipeline of projects for Midtown. So we have about 1,096 units right now. Now this doesn't include the new Lane State one and a few others that haven't quite been announced. But easily, I think, within the next 6 months, we'll have about 2,000 units that will actually be in pre-development and moving towards actual renovation and new construction. Now, I will say our housing occupancy in downtown and Midtown is extremely high. It's about 96 and 97%, so it's just really kind of the churn in the market. If you're price pointing and creating certain types of products, though, you'll have very long wait lists. So the Auburn, which is sort of a cheaply built IKEA-esque product that we put out there for young professionals, it's about $950 a month for a one-bedroom. We have 276 people on the waiting list. And the Park Shelton, which is the other extreme, which is a really nice New York-style loft, has 250 people on their waiting list. Again, these are renters. Park Shelton or buyers. Park Shelton is mostly a purchase, but they have investor renters in there. So, you know, there's for the right product, there's plenty of market. So everyone's really bullish at this point that market is not really an issue, nor are the lenders or the underwriters concerned. Now, if we went to 5,000 units, yeah, but I mean, you know, the work is very difficult, so you can never have that many units at one time because it's just too difficult to have that many. So one of the things with our transit-oriented development plan that we completed, I'm sure all of you have heard about the M1 rail and the fact that that's going forward, and it's going to be about a quarter of it's in downtown, 3/4 of it is in Midtown. It'll connect us all together, which will make a lot of sense for a lot of, especially on the residential side, will make things way more attractive. And we feel that will way cause an uptick in the demand for housing when that thing starts getting into construction. So it's an important development. But we're going for density. So if you look at this chart and you take a look and you say, downtown is about, now this is a couple of years old, so there's probably higher densities a little bit today. Downtown is at 6 people per acre, Midtown's at 12.3, and New Center's at 8.9. And University City is where we want to be in 10 years from now, and they're at 20 people per acre. So Midtown, we might be up to 14 or 15 people per acre now because of all the new housing that's come in the last couple of years, but we still have a long way to go to get to the kind of density we need. This is also one we're an equity investor in. This was a vacant Hebrew school. It's all being redone as 27 new lofts. Again, this is in the museum district. We're also an equity investor in this one. The university was going to tear this one down. We saved this one, and now it's back to its 14 original market rate units. This is a new one that's pretty close to being financed now. They had to get 50% tenancy in this. The commercial tenants are very close. This is on Woodward, just south of Mac. Again, lots of individual houses like this are also now being picked up all through the neighborhood and renovated. This is a fairly recent phenomenon. It's another one that just came online. 38 new units are renovated, historic. Again, this will be student housing for the most part. Another one that is a doctor bought this and is going to redo 4 units of housing. He's going to live in one. So a nice upgrade. This is the one that has 9 new small little businesses in it and has the 275 waiting list. It's in a very good location. Another one in the New Center District. We are putting equity into this as well to get this over the finish line. Beautiful buildings. This one's now going. It's the long-awaited apartment conversion of the Hotel St. Regis. So it's going to go market rate apartments. Again, our NCD Capital is providing money for this. This is a crazy deal at MoCAD, our Contemporary Art Museum. This is a National Artist exhibition. This is a new block, a whole new commercial coming in. This is where Shinola has their flagship store, a little running store. We have another group from New York that's going to open up something cool here. Our bakery's expanding into this building. New affordable housing. This is as nice a housing as you're going to find in any market rate development in the neighborhood, and that's just coming online. 47 more units of affordable housing. This just closed with Mishta last week, and it's going to be under construction. 2 great historic buildings in the southern end. This one was an old castle that was vacant. We got the Green Garage group who had capital go in and buy it, and they're creating an urban lodge and an apartment complex. Well, it's going to be apartments, part lodge, and they're building cabins, actual cabins on the roof of the castle. It's going to be pretty crazy. This is our block, which is a major, like $80 million reinvestment of a historic theater, new coffee houses, Kresge Foundation, Detroit headquarters, Wayne State Physicians, 61 units of market rate housing. It's going to be done by the end of the year, and a bunch of new commercial on the ground floor. This is a new project that we're also providing facade money to called the Alley Wine Bar, taking a structure in an alley and creating it into a wine bar. This is a new artist gallery that was just completed in the neighborhood. It's a new space. It's another one now that's going with our new $30 million fund that was just set up by Kresge and some national funders. Very competitive financing. This is going to be financed under that, as is this one. Again, these were projects that really couldn't be financed but for this new fund that was just recently put together and announced. New hot yoga studio in the ground floor. This is opening next week. Again, we had 24 businesses that opened in the last year, and 12 are in build out currently. So you can see the accelerated pace of the small business work that's going on in the neighborhood. And then Whole Foods came in 6 months ago. They're at least 50% over their projections. They had 90 employees, 75% were City of Detroit residents. They're now at 130 employees in 6 months. Huge uptick there. Shinola's Bike and Watch store, our little running store. It's a new restaurant in the Park Shelton that opened. New little gift shops like this throughout the neighborhood. This is an expanded kids, a really high quality Montessori program, very important to your neighborhood. This is a new play studio and tea house that opened, an expanded coffee house. This is a new upscale restaurant that's being put in a very pioneering part of the neighborhood by the chef at Roast, which is one of the fine dining restaurants in the vocabulary. This again is another new one that opened, another new one that opened. This is the Cass Corridor Museum and the Home for Models and Media, which is in the neighborhood. So that gives you an idea of the kinds of activity that's been going and the necessary ingredients that you kind of have to work on. Lawrence Williamson works on my staff, and he has an architectural background, so he's heavy on the crisis management between small business build-outs, the contractors, the funders. I mean, there's all those kinds of issues with all this that have to be handled like all the time. So you really do need robust infrastructure out there to sort of deal with all the day-to-day issues